Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Serial killer. A serial killer is typically a person who murders 3 or more people, usually in service of abnormal psychological gratification, with the murders taking place over more than a month and including a significant break between them. Different authorities apply different criteria when designating serial killers. While most set a threshold of 3 murders, others extend it to 4 or lessen it to 2. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, for example, defines serial killing as a series of 2 or more murders, committed as separate events, usually, but not always, by one offender acting alone. Although psychological gratification is the usual motive for serial killing, and most serial killings involve sexual contact with the victim, the FBI states that the motives of serial killers can include anger, thrill-seeking, financial gain, and attention-seeking. The murders may be attempted or completed in a similar fashion, and the victims may have something in common: age group, appearance, gender, or race, for example. Serial killing is not the same as mass murdering, nor is it spree killing. However, cases of extended bouts of sequential killings over periods of weeks or months with no apparent cooling-off period or return to normalcy have caused some experts to suggest a hybrid category of spree serial killer. Etymology. The English term and concept of serial killer are commonly attributed to former FBI Special Agent Robert Ressler in 1974, and author Anne Rule postulates in her book, Kiss Me, Kill Me, that the English language credit for coining the term serial killer goes to LAPD Detective Pierce Brooks, who created the VCAP system in 1985. However, there is ample evidence the term was used in Europe and the US earlier. The German term and concept were coined by the influential Ernst Jena, who described Peter Kürten as a Serienmörder in his article, Die Dusseldorfer Sexualverbrechen. And, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, the specific term, serial killer, first arose abroad in a 1960s German film article written by Siegfried Kracauer about the German expressionist film M, portraying a pedophilic Serienmörder. In his book Serial Killers, The Method and Madness of Monsters, criminal justice historian Peter Vronsky argues that while Ressler might have coined the term serial homicide within law, at Bramshill Police Academy in Britain, the terms serial murder and serial murderer appear in John Brophy's book The Meaning of Murder. In his more recent study, Vronsky states that the term serial killing first entered into American popular usage when published in the New York Times in the spring of 1981 to describe Atlanta serial killer Wayne Williams. Subsequently, throughout the 1980s, the term was used in the pages of the New York Times on 233 occasions, but by the end of the 1990s, in the publication's second decade, the use of the term escalated to 2,514 times in the nation's newspaper of record. General. Some commonly found characteristics of serial killers include the following. There are exceptions to these criteria, however. For example, Harold Shipman was a successful professional. He was considered a pillar of the local community. He even won a professional award for a children's asthma clinic, and was interviewed by Granada Television's World in Action. Dennis Nilsson was an ex-soldier turned civil servant and trade unionist who had no previous criminal record when arrested. Neither was known to have exhibited many of the telltale signs. Vlado Taneski, a crime reporter was a career journalist who was caught after a series of articles he wrote gave clues that he had murdered people. Russell Williams was a successful and respected career Royal Canadian Air Force colonel who was convicted of murdering 2 women, along with fetish burglaries and rapes. Development. Many serial killers have faced similar problems in their childhood development. Hickey's trauma control model explains how early childhood trauma can set the child up for deviant behavior in adulthood. The child's environment is the dominant factor determining whether or not the child's behavior escalates into homicidal activity. Family, or lack thereof, is the most prominent part of a child's development, because it is what the child can identify with on a regular basis. The serial killer is no different from any other individual who is instigated to seek approval from parents, sexual partners, or others. This need for approval is what influences children to attempt to develop social relationships with their family and peers, but if they are rejected or neglected, they are unable to do so. This results in the lowering of their self-esteem and helps develop their fantasy world, in which they are in control. According to the Hickey's trauma control model, the development of a serial killer is based on an early trauma, followed by facilitators and disposition. Family interaction also plays an important role in a child's growth and development. The quality of their attachments to parents and other members of the family is critical to how these children relate to and value other members of society. Wilson and Seaman conducted a study on incarcerated serial killers, and what they felt was the most influential factor that contributed to their homicidal activity. Almost all of the serial killers in the study had experienced some sort of environmental problems during their childhood, such as a broken home caused by divorce, or a lack of discipline in the home. It was common for the serial killers to come from a family that had experienced divorce, separation, or the lack of a parent. Furthermore, nearly half of the serial killers had experienced some type of physical or sexual abuse, and even more had experienced emotional neglect. When a parent has a drug or alcohol problem, the attention in the household is on the parents rather than the child. This neglect of the child leads to the lowering of their self-esteem and helps develop a fantasy world in which they are in control. Hickey's trauma control model supports how the neglect from parents can facilitate deviant behavior, especially if the child sees substance abuse in action. This then leads to disposition, which can further lead to homicidal behavior, unless the child finds a way to develop substantial relationships and fight the label they receive. If a child receives no support from those around him or her, then he or she is unlikely to recover from the traumatic event in a positive way. As stated by E. McCoby, the family has continued to be seen as a major, perhaps the major, arena for socialization. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.